This is being live streamed on the internet, so keep it clean, keep it civil, please. And if you want to hit up the restroom or the concession stand here real quick before we get started, we'll be underway in a few moments. Okay, everyone, welcome to the Palace Theater here in Luverne, Minnesota. Thank you for coming this afternoon to the very first episode of Teachers in Retrospect. Hopefully one of many. I'm looking at you teachers out there, I'm coming for you. Our guest this afternoon needs absolutely no introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway. If you went to high school in Luverne between 1971 and 2008, and you received a diploma, odds are you went through the door to this gentleman's classroom. He served Luverne well in his role as an educator. He has many fans, and to this day, I know for a fact from speaking to many former students, he has had a major influence in most everyone's lives. So, without further ado, I give you Mr. Jim Sanden.
I have limited time today because we want to get into the notes. I really shortchanged, that was a beautiful introduction, but I don't think I really deserve it. I think probably about 70, maybe 75% on an average of my class was spent in notes. The rest was comments and questions. Now, some people say that comments and questions was very important to them. And that's why this whole staging kind of looks like a therapy session. Because my guess is that any number of you people have been in therapy since you've had me for comments and questions. Anyway, I came in 1971, so the first class was the class of 72, and I heard today, so that's 50 years ago, so I heard today that they knew I was going to do this, and they started their 50th anniversary at 5 and were recommending that no one show up. Now, Is there anyone from the class of 71, 72 here? Okay. I remember going up to the school. This is before the school started. And the first person I talked to was a senior. And she was working, Marcia Huskies. And she was the first student, I remember that. I'm not sure why. But had a nice conversation. She warned me about that class, which was really not necessary. I met John Padilla at the school, and I don't know if John is here, but we were next door neighbors with John. My wife and I rented an apartment at Bud Bought Drug. So for a year and a half. Pot drug, yeah. Yeah. You want to hear my pot story? Now, I apologize for this.
You go right ahead, Mr. Sanden.
Yeah.
The stage is yours.
Yeah. For a long time, I've had a bucket list. And one was, I'm probably the only person of my generation. I went to college in the 60s. I went to Vietnam. And I never participated in the drug culture. Not even marijuana, honest to God. I know Bill Clinton said he smoked, but he never swallowed, or what. I'm really sorry about that. But, as the people who were students of mine I don't think I ever talked down to students. And that included, I had there was an overflow class. It was the class of 79, but when they were seventh graders, there was an overflow class. So I did teach American history to seventh graders. And believe me, I wasn't happy. However, that class was just absolutely fantastic. I mean, it was, did anyone take me for seventh grade? Yeah. It was a fantastic, by the way, if you have a phone, why don't you put it on vibrate and put it in your pocket and enjoy the conversation. Anyway, I was going to tell you about my bucket list, right? So I had two buckets. I had one. I wanted to indulge in marijuana at least once. And secondly, I want to be arrested for a good cause. I want, and I'm not coming here to really talk about politics, but I think there's a lot of opportunity for me to get arrested. So anyway, I was telling this to someone. This was a number of years ago. And this was before any state legalized it. And she came up to me and she said, I told my friend about your bucket list. She lived in California. And she sent this cookie to you. So, she could have been arrested. Maybe I could have been arrested, and probably for a good cause. So I talk about, So anyway, Linda, my wife, I was a little nervous about having anything marijuana around, so I kind of hid it. I hid it in my underwear drawer. I don't know if any of you guys ever hid anything in your underwear drawer in the 7th or 8th grade, but, we can talk. Anyway, so there it was, and I knew I was going to meet her at this meeting that I was an official of. So I knew she was going to ask me about this cookie. So I thought, well, I better take a bite and then I'll throw it away. It was a good cookie. It was a wonderful cookie. So I went to the refrigerator, got a glass of milk, and ate the cookie. And then I went to my meeting. And the world was not moving then. But when I got to the meeting, all of a sudden I find myself on the floor. And there are people standing over me saying, I think he had a heart attack. No, it must be a stroke. It was, call the EMT. No. I said, no, don't do that. They called the EMT. They hooked me up with all kinds of wires. We got to take you to the hospital. No, I'm not going to the hospital. I live over here, in this third world country called South Dakota. And, that's why the prison is full up on the hill. So I didn't, so I said no, and they finally accepted that. And I went home and I slept for about 2 hours. And then I got a phone call from the gal that I told my bucket list to, and she says, I hear you had a medical emergency. I said, that wasn't a medical emergency. That was your damn cookie. So she immediately got on the phone, and the woman said, and I swear to this day I didn't see the instructions, don't have more than 1/4 of that cookie at any one time. So anyway, where are we right now?
Did you have a cookie beforehand?
No, I never smoked it. I haven't smoked it. But then again, I didn't smoke cigarettes. And I know in college, people look so cool when they're smoking marijuana cigarettes that I knew I'd just be wrenching in the corner, like that. So I think it wasn't anything virtuous on my part. I just didn't smoke and I didn't inhale. Well, that's what Bill Clinton said. I didn't inhale. Anyway. I'm sorry, what?
Have you gotten arrested yet?
No, I haven't. So if there's a great activity up in Minneapolis with a potential of getting arrested, just let me know. I know a couple attorneys in here. Hopefully that'll. In fact, there's a former student who was the president of the Minnesota Bar Association. You want to stand up and? And along those lines, I had 2 judges came out of my government classes and comments and questions. One leans Democrat and one is very Republican. So a lot of people said I brainwash people. I don't think that's true. I just, Mr. Kannenberg, could you say that I brainwashed people?
No, absolutely not.
No. And if there was one person I wanted to brainwash, but I just want to thank, I want to thank my wife, who put up with a lot. I don't know if you remember, and Linda, could you stand up, please? If it wasn't comments and questions, I was writing letters to the editor. Do you remember letters to the editor? And and I think the historical, the museum, Brock County, has all the papers on file. So if you want to browse through my collection of letters, so. And Linda stood by me, and thank you very much. And the last thing I want to say before we get to Sean, and by the way, I want to thank Bill and Sean, and I think Ben too. My guess is Ben had something to do with this, didn't he?
He definitely helped kick things off a little bit,
So
yeah.
I want to thank them for making this possible. I also want to say there's a lot of teachers in this audience. I got fantastically good students. This is Lake Wobegon. The men are good looking, the women are strong, and all the children are above average. And they're not above average because I did anything. They were shaped that way from kindergarten up to their senior year in high school. I just want to go on record, finally, of saying that. I never want to tell elementary teachers that because I ran into elementary teachers all the time saying, oh, I don't know how you could put up with that. Put up with it. Having 30 little kids, and you're the mother duck, and 30 ducklings around you. I'm on record as saying we had a fantastic faculty here for the 37 years I was here. My two children are in the audience. I think they would absolutely agree with me on that. I never for 1 minute ever said, oh, if we could have just sent our kids to a better school. I never said that. And I never heard them say that. So my hat's off to the teachers, and I think I'm up here today. I hope you continue this retrospective only because of comments and questions. Nothing academic. And thank God all the teachers here are more academically inclined than I am. So do you want to take over? Or?
Absolutely. We had somebody mention comments and questions a couple different times out there. Let's get to it. So the first question that I will throw your way there, Mr. Sanden. Want you to consider an alternate reality where you did not serve in Vietnam. How does that change the Mr. Sanden that LHS students experienced in class?
Well, I would say that I wouldn't be standing here today because I got a draft notice. By the way, my first year teaching was 68, 69 in Luverne, Minnesota. And I got a draft notice while I was teaching in, did I say Luverne? Wagner, South Dakota. It's down right where the Missouri River bends. It's down there where they have golf courses. Not that I play golf, but they have golf courses with signs, beware of rattlesnakes. Okay, so anyway, I taught there. I got drafted. I was against the war in college. I was against the war when I went and served. When I served in Vietnam as an infantry soldier, I was against the war. Okay? I took orders, but I didn't volunteer. And I was against the war when I got out of the military. So I don't think, because when I got my draft notice, there weren't a lot of options. One option was to go to Canada. One option was to go to jail. And by the way, do you remember my repertoire in comments and questions? I talked a lot about my father being a sheriff. Do you remember that? No? You don't remember that? Gee, we could spend hours on that. We lived in the jail. It was a duplex. So we lived in the jail. My father was the sheriff. We lived in the jail, kind of like the Rock County Jail, if you visit that. The sheriff's quarters were upstairs, and the cells, I think, were downstairs. I'm not sure. Anyway, I knew I wouldn't have done well in prison, spending time in jail. I knew something about jail, confinement. Those were about the two options. I could have gone down and I could have enlisted in the Air Force And that, by the way, in Vietnam, the Air Force and the Navy didn't draft anyone. Because when you got your draft notice, a lot of people went down and volunteered for the Navy or for the Air Force. Yeah, yeah. But that was for 4 years. And I thought, 4 years? No way, I'll take my chances. After all, I am a college graduate. They're not going to put me in the swamps. So anyway, I served, and I'm not sure. Oh, so obviously my repertoire would have been, if I would have somehow, I don't think Harvey Eitram would have hired an ex-felon fresh out of prison. If you remember Harvey. Wouldn't you agree with me, teacher Larry Nelson? I don't think, actually, I interviewed with facial hair. And when I got my job, I remember Keith saying, "Doggone it, you got hired with facial hair. I've been trying to grow that, and Harvey won't let me." Thank God. And there was another teacher that year. By the way, when I came in 71, there was 11 of us hired. It was a big class, a freshman class for teachers. And I don't think Harvey would have, and if I would, obviously if I'd been in Canada, I would probably be a Canadian citizen. So I wouldn't be here. But without Vietnam, I did have some great stories. My father was a sheriff, and there was a ton of stories from that, and told them. I also hitchhiked out to the West Coast and back. I don't know if you got any of that. I know I told some stories. Yeah, we'll probably get to the leech. So I don't know. Vietnam for me was love-hate. I mean, obviously I'm a different person because I served in Vietnam. It was an experience. There's a lot of war stories there. Cut a lot of time out of notes. But anyway, so I don't know if I answered the question.
I believe you did. We've got another one here. This one's pretty straightforward. If you had not become a teacher, what profession would you have chosen?
Probably the law, but I don't know.
What kind of influence from your father there, probably?
Well, he was a sheriff, and yeah, there was some of that. And I took in a number of trials. We were a pretty rough county, so there was a lot, quite a few murders, and I sat in on some court in the summer, some court hearings. But you got to remember, I was raised during the time of Perry Mason. So obviously I thought I could be a Perry Mason. But I have to say, I held that until really the first year I taught in Luverne, to be very honest.
Okay.
When I taught in Wagner, it was always going to be temporary, and then I was going to go down to the University of Minnesota. No, to the University of South Dakota for the law school. But I enjoy teaching. So I enjoyed comments and questions. I think with my combat experience in Vietnam, I needed comments and questions for therapy. So thank you very much. Thank you. Never had to go to therapy, but I think if I had an overstuffed chair like that, or maybe a couch, I would have said comments and questions, and I'd laid down and I know something about therapy because I just love Tony Soprano in his therapy sessions. Anyway.
Well, I know for a fact that comments and questions were very important to the students as well. I personally know 3 former students of yours who are friends of mine who went on to become teachers, who start their class with, "All right, any comments or questions today?" They do that because of what they learned from you.
Wow. Wow, that blew me away. Jeez. Well, thank
Okay,
you.
let's see what else we've got here as far as questions here. Oh, okay. So, Mr. Sanden, the most memorable moment from your time as a teacher.
Yeah.
What sticks out in your mind more than anything
Yeah.
else?
Yeah, I got it. It was quite dramatic. I was in a room. By the way, my first year, 71, 72, the curriculum for government was a full year of government. My God, a full year of government. U.S. government. And it was really the only year that I used the textbook. And it was the same textbook that I had in my high school. But I didn't take any notes, so I mean, it's not like it was Magruder's government. I forget what the publishing date was, but it was the same. And I was doing units on the ag department. Now I know the ag department's important, but boy, dry. Or the commerce department, and blah blah blah. And I was just starting out. I really hadn't taught government. Not down in Wagner. And I think that's when I instituted comments and questions. I don't know if I had, Linda asked me if I had comments and questions down in Wagner, and I don't remember. Anyway, just to hit off the subject, I mean, I was bored. So they changed the curriculum after my first year to all electives. You had to have so many social studies credits, but you could take any class you want. And God, I created about 8 or 9 classes because I knew older brothers and sisters were saying, Sanden teaches, I'll just throw out one of them, Greece and Rome. Well, I'm not going to sign up for that class. So, I created the history of war, I don't know, whatever. This was before all of this rigmarole about standards and standardized tests. Oh, I tell you, that's why I got out of teaching. I got out of teaching because I always thought teaching was kind of an art form. And an artist is going to paint a nice picture, and hopefully people will be sold on it, and the standards will come through. But it was standards, and the other one was technology. Standards and technology drove me out of the business. And by the way, you're looking at someone, you can say this to yourself, or tell someone, tell your grandchildren or great-grandchildren, I knew a man that never owned a cell phone or a flip phone. I have never owned one. And my life is so much better than my wife, who has to take a lot of my messages. So it's hard to divorce yourself from the real world. It's not like Walden Pond or something at my house. I was going to say something else.
Memorable moment.
Oh, memorable moment. Yeah. Memorable moment. I won't mention the person, but if you're in the class of 71, 72, you know what I'm talking about. We had a student in the room next to mine, was a bathroom, blew the toilet off the wall with a cherry bomb. Yeah. And he is a well-respected man of the community.
I want to ask you who that is.
Anyway, ask someone from the class of 71, 72.
Fair enough.
And we lived above Bot Drugs, so I remember graduation for the class of 72. Everyone was over the Padillas. I mean, unbeknownst to me. I think Linda and I we're in bed, and all of a sudden we hear all this noise, and it's coming, we had an apartment, and there was an area roof right behind our bedroom. And so they could go from the bakery up on our, and let me just tell you, there was a smell that was coming from that graduation party. I even mentioned it to Al, and he didn't deny it. So. He said it wasn't me, it was a lot of people that just brought stuff. So. Oh, and the other thing, you mind?
No, go right ahead. Yeah.
And this was also the class 71, 72, but I mean, this continued for some years. It was Halloween, and we got invited to a party over in Sioux Falls, Linda and I. We walked out of Bot Drug, and it was a war zone. Do you remember Halloween? Eggs? It was, and I walked out, and our car was around and back in a garage, and Linda was going to come out and jump in the car, and I thought, oh my God. I drove around, no eggs. I drove on Main Street, parked in front of Bot Drug, no eggs, drove out of town, came back. The Main Street looked like scrambled eggs. It was really tough. And that one, my car never got hit. So I thought that was very nice. So, like I say, all the kids were above average.
So you mentioned technology and standards being a reason why you decided to retire when you
I thought
did.
it became, I didn't finish. I always thought teaching was like an art form. Mm-hmm. I think they're trying to make it more like not to put down mechanics, but it was more, I'm not a mechanic. I can't fix anything. Light goes out. Linda. So it just seemed, you got to get these standards in, and you got to do it, and you got to match them up within the textbook. Oh, that was another thing, textbooks. And see, I never really used the textbook. Do you remember that? I maybe handed something out to you at the beginning of the year, but I never used it. And it was notes, and it was a lot of worksheets and readings and that kind of thing. So I had to keep on top of things, but anyway. So they were cracking down. Sean said, so you went from blackboards to whiteboards. No, I went from blackboards to blackboards. I didn't make the transition even to a whiteboard. I do remember, though, I subbed for a few years, and I substituted into it was a music class of third or fourth graders. It was right at Christmas time. And I have never, I can tell tune, but I know I'm out of tune all the time. It's so bad I don't even sing in the shower. My wife, we've been married just about 53 years, and she's never heard me sing. For, happy birthday, I just move my lips. And I think I'm doing everyone around me a favor because I'd be out of tune. Terrible. You ever see Andy Mayberry with Barney, who was going to sing in the choir? A little bit louder. So he was just lipping. Anyway, so I'm the Barney.
I'm trying to wrap my head around music class with Mr. Sanden.
Yeah. Oh, I had a conga line going, singing Christmas tunes that I wasn't singing, but I was leading the group around the. Oh, and I remember I taught a PE class. Oh, a lot of people say, Mr. Sanden, do you exercise? And I always say, no, I follow Mark Twain's adage. If I feel like exercise, I immediately sit down in an overstuffed chair and let the feeling pass. I don't exercise. Anyway, where was I? Oh, I was doing a Mary Jo Graffentine's PE class. It was volleyball. So, one time. So they were doing kind of round robin volleyball. I said, the team that loses, you have to run around the auditorium. Loser, loser, loser. You know, this was the day and age of everyone gets a trophy. You came in 5 out of 5, you get a trophy. Loser, loser, loser.
And this is why we now have standards.
Whoa.
Oh, man.
Well, that got the biggest laugh, too.
Well, you set me up, so thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So, let's see here. Let's dive back in. Actually, you know what we could do? We could open it up for anyone who might have some comments or questions here.
Okay.
We've got a microphone set up down right here in front.
So this will be like C-SPAN. If you come down and speak into the mic, this is your opportunity.
Would anybody like to take a chance to ask a question? Oh, come on, you cowards. Oh, we got one up top. There you are.
Who's that?
Go right ahead. Just shout.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep, up on the balcony right there.
In the teacher's lounge, who is the most effective person on the other side of the political spectrum to argue?
So for those of you who may not have heard, the question was, in the teacher's lounge, who was Mr. Sanden's kind of political opposite and the most effective with arguing with him
Yeah,
on the political spectrum?
that's fairly easy. Yeah, it was Mrs. Christensen. Mrs. Christensen was, and I think she taught maybe 3 or 4 years. I'm sorry, what? Yeah, I know, but do you know what year she would have retired? But it got heated sometimes. I do remember a time, I don't think I even had tenure. And Mr. Harner, by the way, he was a part of that freshman class. Mr. Harner was the principal. Came in. He didn't come in a lot, but anyway, he was sitting next to me, and we got into one hellacious argument. And he turned on me and he said, "I think you're a socialist." And I said, "You know what? You're right." I said, "I like Social Security. I like public education. I like, I lived in Luverne at that time, and it was socialist garbage haul. I live over in Sioux Falls now, and it is a mess on Mondays and Tuesdays because there's 15 different garbage carriers coming around. Beep, 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 beep. Swear to God, I'll take socialism in garbage collection over capitalism any day. Say, and tell your dad that too, will you? Anyway, did I answer your question? Oh, Mrs. Christensen. So anyway, Mr. Harner and I got into it, I know, a number of times. So.
All right, another question? If not, I do have others here.
Which was your favorite class?
Oh.
Don't be afraid to say 86.
That's Jennifer Bott. I was telling her, we moved into Bott Drug, and I always remember, I remember Jennifer as she was tiny in age, but she stood about that tall. I remember that. I think she kind of forgot that, but you said something. You always knew it was Christmas Day, or was it Christmas
Eve.
Christmas Eve, when I would come in and try to find something for Christmas. So again, I go back to Linda. So, yeah.
All right, here is a question from our Gmail account here. Pretty open-ended here. What are your thoughts on today's society? Take it away.
Look, you know, I had parent-teacher conferences, and the parents would come in, and they would always say, God, it must be hard being a teacher in this day and age. This is back in 1971. And you know what I'd say? Oh, yeah, it's really tough. Because I thought probably that would get back to the school board, and they would give us raises. No, as far as students go, from 71 to 08, and even beyond that, in subbing. And I do have a story from substitute. We went into Red Lobster, for the first time in years and years and years. And our waiter came up and said, "You're Mr. Sanden, aren't you?" And I'm right away, I just say, "You got me. I don't know your name." He says, "You probably wouldn't remember because you were a substitute teacher." And I think he graduated in 10 or 11. And I was just blown away. He said, "You came in and told stories, and I thought it was the greatest thing that ever happened." Ignoring, of course, the lesson plan that the teacher had put on it. And, of course, having to do that because I don't know how to run a whiteboard. or a projector, for that matter. Yes.
So, oh boy. Let's see what else we can find here. Nope, skipping that one. Whoa, nope. Let's go with...
Who's your most successful student?
And why is it Sean Kinsinger?
Yeah, I refuse to answer that. There are a lot of... conservatives say I had probably 4,000 students, so... I know, particularly in some cases, my debaters, and mock trial people, got to know them just somewhat better in a way. But I do hear stories. I get together with the elders. Anyway, and I catch up on some of those. I don't know. I do know that. No, I'm just gonna mention this because I think it's kind of a cute story. Does anyone remember? Was anyone here in the class of '85? Class of '85.
88.
Anyway, there was a girl in that class, and she was a lightning rod. It was Jennifer Stewart. Do you remember Jennifer Stewart? She was going to play boys baseball, I think, because there was no girls equivalent at that time, I don't think, sports activity. And created quite a fuss. But that was Jennifer, okay? So she was taking science. Oh, going back, I asked Jennifer one time, I don't know if I even should say this. No, I'm not going to say it. Anyway, no. Anyway, let's just say the family was poor. But Jennifer was a live wire. She entered a science project, a state high school project, and it was going to be on fruit flies. And it was, I forget what it was, something or another. And Mr. Oxness still tells the story and laughs about it. She left the light bulb on and they all burned up. They all died. But she wrote her up, submitted to the state, went up to the science fair, but she didn't have a project, not even a volcano. So, and she got second place. And she ended up getting a scholarship to Boston College, where she met her husband, who is on CNBC quite a bit. He runs a little hedge fund called Alpha Capital, and his name is Dan Niles. And if you watch it, don't watch CNBC. Right now, you'll go to drink or marijuana or something. Anyway, so she graduated. I don't think she was married then, but she got a scholarship to go out to a law school at Hastings in the Bay Area. It's a law school. So she finished law school. She never practiced law. She wrote a couple romance novels that were picked up by the store we never go to. Walmart. I've never owned a cell phone, I've never owned a flip phone, and I've never been in a Walmart store. Anyway, and then she married Dan Niles, and quite successful, and came from really poverty. The family wasn't from here, they moved up to Minnesota. I don't know, there's so many, Well, when you're above average, let's just say.
Well, Mr. Sanden, we've got just a little bit more time here left before the next scheduled event for the Cardinal Pride Weekend kicks in. So I'm going to throw you one more question here. And, well, it's more of just an opportunity for you to impart some wisdom. What pieces of wisdom would you like to tell any new teachers out there who might see this at some point?
I remember packing up in 1968 to go to Wagner. And my mother, who was started out as a one-room country schoolhouse teacher in the dirty 30s, and said things like, dust storms were worse for a teacher in a one-room school, kids living a mile or 2 miles away, and whether you should let them go or keep them in the school or whatever, than even blizzards. She mentioned, but anyway, so I was loading up my car, and she came over and she says, I just want to say one thing. It's a lot easier to give up an authority once you have it than try to reclaim it. She said, don't try to be, in the first days, don't try to be the kids' friends. Use authority, and then gradually give up on, more of a free-flowing thing than if you come in and you're, I don't know. You can take it for what it's worth. It guided me. And I thought it was very good advice, and it was probably the best advice I got in education when I got in the education department of the school that I was a part of. So, could we give a round of applause to my mother? Yeah. Anyway, it worked for me.
That is excellent advice.
And by the way, I opened tonight on a, this is fantastic. This theater was built, I don't think you even mentioned you should donate to this theater. This is a gem. Leave a donation at the desk. Have one less beer tonight. But I made the board out front. And this theater's been going on since 1915. Can you imagine who's been on that marquee? Now, I closed the same day that I started. But my name is in lights.
That it is, and very deservedly.
Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. Mr. Jim Sanden. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope it went all right.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.